So this guy here is starting to come together. Let's see anything else technical about this painting. So yeah, the machine itself quite fast. It's good to invest in a machine that's fast, because this way when you're working, you're not letting anything get in your way. You want to use a big brush or do something, anything, there's no delay. Or saving a file, you don't have to wait for 10 minutes or something like that for it to even write to the hard drive, right? It makes the working process much faster. It's always one of those investments that's worth the time, or worth the money, I guess, in a way, to get, because anything that makes your workflow faster and smoother without any kind of headache is something that's worth the investment, because it'll make all its money back if you do good work with it, right? So I use a PC. You can use a Mac. It doesn't really matter. I use a PC mainly because I also play games on them as well and develop games. Sometimes you get beta copies or alpha copies, and they only work on PCs. So, but a Mac is just as good. Get a G5 with lots of RAM. 6 gigs, 8 gigs, or 12. Somewhere in the high range of RAM. Very fast processor. So this machine, pretty soon I'm actually upgrading this machine to even faster video cards, which doesn't do much for Photoshop, but it does make the games faster. So right now it's running a dual GTX 295 in SLI mode. So I'm going to a triple 480 actually pretty soon, which is 3 video cards in the same machine. Again, I don't think Photoshop does anything with those kind of cards. It's more for next generation of games. Because for us, we do have to keep in touch of what's going on in the industry. So if popular games like Crysis 2 comes out, you want to be able to check these games out, but you also don't want to run them at 2 frames a second. So machines like this could run games like Crysis no problem in the probably 90. I think it runs about 90 to 100 frames a second with everything set on super high resolution and setting. So this way you can enjoy the game the way the developers made it. Because a lot of developers are developing on those kind of machines. So when you turn a lot of options down, it's actually not what they intended the game to be. You're seeing about half of what they are trying to show you. Okay, so back to painting. You can see we do have a few layers, but a lot of those layers are just broken down so I can show students. But like these characters and stuff in general, I won't even break them into layers. So I put this guy here just for scale. This way, as a human being, we know how big this ant insect bug thing is. Without this human here, we could actually try to guess any size. It could be the size of a real ant, for example, or it could be ginormous. We just can't tell, because you do have grass here, but what if there's an alien world and the grass is tiny or huge? You have no idea. But by putting a human being, right away we connect to the size very easily. So I'm just putting these little soldiers. Try to come up with a scene, right? When you're painting something, really put yourself into them. I do that for concept art. I do it for digital painting, anything. Try to pretend you're there with these people, and what's the morning like? What's the smell like? What's the temperature? Try to get all those into your body, right? Feel it out, and that'll make your painting a lot more believable in a way. And also you have more fun with it. So here I'm trying to imagine a story where this guy, the first guy I painted is kind of guarding along with this robot, probably some kind of UAV, unmanned vehicle, and this is another guy, maybe a scout, coming back to sort of just reporting back to this guy that maybe the road ahead has enemies or something. Like they're having a quick conversation chat, and the other guy's saying like, I'm not gonna move, man. I'm gonna stay here with this guy. Whatever you want to do to create in your head. So this guy, you're trying to make him into a pose where looks like he's about to walk off by saying something really quickly to the other guy. And the other guy ain't moving. He's kind of just standing there with his mech pet. Right. These little scenes are great. So you could tell story with it. Along with a single painting, you have design, you have mood, you have color, you have camera, and you have story. So it serves multiple purposes. This brush is one of my favorite brushes. It's my scratchy brush, which is some kind of noise, and I use it at about 10% opacity. So it kind of just blasts a little bit atmosphere fog into the scene without actually messing up the painting itself. It comes out very, very light. And then I'm back to the chalk brush. The chalk brush is used about probably 95% of the time here. Again, default Photoshop brush. So here, painting some highlights, extracting those legs out. Pretty quick, this process. Generally when I do these, I try to relax as much as possible. When I'm doing these, just let the kind of the design take care of itself in a way. It's hard to explain, but I guess a lot of stuff just kind of comes to you as you paint. So I just put some music on and just start painting random stuff, and have fun with it. I think in this case I was listening to some very old early 90s music, retro stuff. and just painting away. So here I'm resing it up. You can see the default size was at 235, which is an industry proportions for films like DVDs, which is actually 239. So, but what I did is I increased it to double the res right now. So this is right now about 4,000, almost 5,000 pixels wide, which is enough for a rough painting. If I want to go tighter, I'll probably go to about 6,000 to 8,000 pixels wide. So that way I can just get in there and get the details without having to paint with a 1 pixel brush. This way I can stick with the same large brush, but they get tighter. The brush itself gets tighter because the image is bigger. Yeah, instead of kind of shrinking my brush, because the smaller you go with your brush, the harder it is to paint. It doesn't flow on that well, right? For example, try to paint with a 3 pixel brush is very awkward because it comes off very digital. It doesn't come off smooth because the computer doesn't have enough pixels for it to smooth out the pixels around itself. So it comes off super digital. Yeah, so you probably need a minimum of about maybe 5 to 8 pixels to start to feel the brush. Otherwise, no matter what you're using, it comes off as a little pixel, little dot. Okay, so this image here now is quite big. So if you go up any higher than this, you're gonna need a lot of RAM. Otherwise, your machine will start chugging every few minutes. So you're extracting the details. This guy is kind of a robot patrol vehicle. He's got a lot of protection, so this way other things can't get to it. So this kind of spiky thing, which also plays along well with the design of an insect. Insects by nature also have this kind of stuff. So we build into the machine, just like what we did with last week's zombie thing, you play with the emotion of the audience. When they see something like that, they can relate to it. They see sharp spikes, they see insect, they see bug, or kind of aggressive looking bug. They're gonna think this machine is made to as a war machine, I guess. Right? It's not gentle. It's here to harm you or be prevented from harm from others. So here I'm actually hand painting some grass just to extract it. This is not a brush, just painting a couple of brush grass here and there to create a parallax effect, right? Putting shapes in front of other shapes. So you can see here the guys, for example, the soldier holding the gun in the back, he's in front of one of these robots' legs. The robot leg itself is in front of his own body. So by creating this kind of layered effect, your painting will feel more 3D. And then using value, lighter value, to separate them out as they go further into space. Now painting like this is not super tight. Again, this is I think a maximum 2 hours. I think it's shorter than that. I think I started this around 1, finished around maybe 2:35, 2:40, somewhere around there. And then the rest of the time was actually just cleaning up the Camtasia files. So it's about an hour and a half painting. So I didn't really get into detail everything out super tight, but enough detail to hold the painting at this resolution. So if we do print this out at 11 by 17 or A3, it'll hold up okay, but it's not ultra tight. This paint, however, with all the values set, if I spend another, say, a whole day on it, maybe 5-6 hours on it, we could actually get it to be very, very clean. And also this painting, I'm trying to do one in which we don't rely on anything. We start this painting completely raw. We're not going to use any photos. We're not going to use any textures. We're not going to use anything except just do it all in Photoshop, right? Start with our own color palette, our own canvas. There's nothing to help us start it, and that's a great way to practice. Later, eventually, I'll do some tutorials where we actually use additional help. For example, you could bring color palettes from photos that you've taken on vacation or whatever, and use those color palettes as a starting point. But for this one, I want to keep it completely digital, or completely, I guess, without outside aid. So you're watching a 100% painting here. And the initial color palette, I just started with a warm tone and just kind of picked within itself and just darkened, lightened. That's all I did to create the initial value. So everything's got this kind of right now a warm, I started with a warm reddish tone and then I cooled it down using the color balance.